Sure, thank you.
Yeah, Dad is here now. He's right here. Hi, baby. Number
Hi.
one, number one baby boy. And Lauren and Patel. All right. Well, it's great. It's great to be here together. And the spaciousness that in which we gather is that this inner space that enlivens our world and ourselves. So let's just close our eyes and, using the breath, allow ourselves to drop into the heart, falling out of the mind and into the heart. And in this spaciousness that we call the heart, which is actually awake awareness, the source of everything, it is the quantum field. We experience it as potentiality, as aliveness. So on another inhale, and on the exhale, just dropping into love, falling into love, and together we are here. And this is the experience and the knowing of oneness. And I am that. There's no polarity here. Polarity exists in the mind, where we're mostly caught. But we have this, not just this refuge, but this source of everything that is available to us in any moment, as we acknowledge and become aware, as we open up to this quantum field of reality arising as consciousness, as awareness. Everything is sourced here. It has no limits. It's vast, it's alive, and it's always scintillating with potential. We can know ourselves as this, as the awareness arising, and then experiencing a life in a 3D reality as this body-mind unit, as this avatar. And that's the adventure. We open up to this adventure as we allow our true nature to come forth, to live from that place rather than the limited ego identity that's created and caught in fear. So we open, and awareness increases as we live from what is primary and what is source, which is the one, I am. This is the beauty, the brilliance that's been eternally available in every reality, but has been obfuscated in this reality by fear. And so as we relax our mind and fall into our heart and know everything as connected and one, beyond safety, beyond pairs of opposites, and we relish and abide and celebrate. We celebrate aliveness, always available, this spaciousness, dropping into love, falling into love. And so it is. Thank you all showing up here and here. I was thinking about the way in which we perceive and the receive and experience and what shapes that, what modifies it, and how we are literally seeing through the lens of our early wounding. Anais Nin said, we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. And I've always loved that quote because it takes us directly to where we can understand ourselves as cause in the matter of our own experience. Because whatever you see or perceive to be, in quotes, out there, as if there were an out there, all of that is shaped and then received and again perceived through the distortion field of our own consciousness when we're still caught in fear, when we're still caught in the idea of limitation, when we're still caught in the idea that something out there is the cause of my happiness or the cause of my misery. And so through that perception, we're caught up in trying to make a difference in an out there, and there's no out there. So it's all an inside job. And that's initially that can feel like daunting for sure. But it also is relieving when we realize that whatever is showing up as our reality, as our experience is 100% sourced in the one we take ourselves to be. Because that's what we have access to. The reason that the world is so caught up in problems is because we're trying to create solutions at the level of the problem instead of at the cause in the matter, which is collectively systems, conditions, and so forth. So as we come home to ourselves and come home to this place where we start to recognize the intricacies of this amazing reality that responds in all ways, directly responds to who we take ourselves to be and how we are with right here, right now, inwardly, and that is a frequency that the quantum field responds to and shows up as an external reality, including this body-mind. So we have this wonderment of the nature of creation and our access to it. And it's such an adventure as we start to know that that's how it works. And who I am being is what the information is that's going into what's cause in the matter. Then we start to celebrate. We start to, there's a joke most of you have heard about the monks that were into transcribing the early scriptures, and they're all in the catacombs and doing their hieroglyphics and all whatever. Now that's Egyptian, excuse me. We're talking. So they're transcribing all the old scrolls, and one of them throws up his pen and ink and runs upstairs, and his robes are flapping, and he's saying to the headmaster, "We made a mistake. We made a mistake. It's not celibate, it's celebrate."
Yeah. Yes.
So you know, we are making these corrections at the very level of what is cause in the matter, the cause in the matter of the true nature of reality. Experience is a 3D. The potential here is to come into the frequency of what is already true, which we have distorted through a lens based in fear. And what is already true is the nature of reality is love, and it's the frequency of an octave of love that our human mind, still caught in whatever degree in limitation, cannot fathom, but we can intuit it And in that intuition, we can open to it, and we can come home to ourselves and to each other in this acknowledgement. So I'm thrilled for all of us to be here together, and whatever is standing in the way, every one of you, I know every one of you, and to some degree, I know all of you who are on Zoom, and but I know that the motivation, that the motivation, that the longing in every heart is to be free. And so the question that I have for you today is, what do you want to be free of? To take a look at what does it mean to you when people talk about liberation or becoming free or being free, then we have to consider, what is it that you feel is hindering you? What is it that's weighing you down or attached to you that keeps you from experiencing your own freedom? And so that's a question I'd like to open up to everybody, and I'd love some participation in regard to that, because it's so much fun to realize that if you have the perception and the experience of being limited, and that's what you need to be free of, then we can look at it together and see what's possible and freeing up out of that limitation. So, without calling on people, which I can definitely do, I would love for anybody to offer, what's the sense of wanting? First, I'm assuming, I assume a lot because I can't see faces, right? So I'm always in some form of assumption, but I'm assuming that everybody would agree that if you're wanting to be free, if that's your motivation, that there is something you might point to that you want to be free of. And it would be interesting to do a little, what do you call it when you ask a lot of people the same question?
Survey.
Survey, yay. Yeah,
All right,
okay, there we go, Robert.
so I'd like to be free of being triggered.
Wow.
Mhm.
That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah, so there's an identity that goes along with the one who is triggered, right?
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a great acknowledging the limitation in your experience is what can in fact trigger you. But we have direct access to that now with the 6 steps. And that, yeah, thank you. Anybody else?
It dovetails with another question of mine, which is it possible to be a mother and not feel remorse?
Wow, that's something to be free of.
Yeah, that would be really good.
Yeah, thank you, Lily. Thank you.
Yeah.
See, that's interesting enough, because that is also an identity, isn't it?
Yeah.
That mother identity, that label.
Yeah,
Yeah. Pretty sticky one, isn't it?
it is
Yeah.
multi-layered.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I like to be free of past and future.
Wow. Yay.
Lori T. From Maui would like to be free of self-consciousness, get rid of self-importance, worrying herself to death.
Worrying?
Yeah.
Worrying. That's great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So in that spaciousness that we access, is there anybody else that's got
I'd like to be free of the thoughts that think I'm not free.
the thought that thinks you're not free? That'd clean it up really fast. That's a great one. Thank you, Tishina. Yeah. The all of the ways in which we're weighted down and limited are all thought-based identities, aren't they?
Yeah. Linda has her hand up too. Let's see what Linda has to say.
So is it-
Holly, I'd like to be free of my attachment to the my attachment to the body, and with that, the fear of, losing the body and dying.
Right.
That's good.
Yeah, that's very prevalent for everybody who's operating through a body. We tend to get attached, right? Thank you. Was somebody back there?
Yeah, I was just riffing off what someone else had said. Or what you had said, that these are thought forms or something to that degree. I don't
Yeah.
Absolutely recall exactly what you said. It's something about thoughts, and we would be better off without thoughts.
Right, well, that's, thoughts, thinking is a function, except when we're caught in fear, and then we tend to attribute importance to rational analytic thinking. That's kind of the description and the outworking over all of these these eons, actually, of what we call the fall, when we were pulled into the rational analytic and we were kicked out of the garden, which is fundamentally the heart, the quantum field of peace and love and all that we truly value. But the thinking mind has become the source of our consideration. So the rational analytic got elevated. We can refer to it as piled higher and deeper, or PhD, right? That the rational analytic mind came into place and began to create taxonomies and rules and ordinances and everything that took us out of our heart and into our mind to try to have control over a reality that was the projection of fear. Yeah, so all of these things that we want to be free of are the fundamental creation of our identity of being a limited fear-based person. And we do get attached to and believe that we are the body-mind unit. The body-mind unit arises in awareness exactly like everything else does. Sometimes when we do the meditation, I ask for a shift in point of view from here as we open up into the field and have it be from behind us, so that we have the experience of the body-mind unit arising in the field of consciousness where everything arises, the quantum field, right? And so knowing awareness is not dependent on this body-mind unit. And we prove that every night in our dream state. It's awareness that we use the body-mind unit as a kind of a vehicle for interaction at the 3D level, but the awareness of seeing or hearing or touching or sensing is awareness using the body-mind as the vehicle for that experience. But awareness doesn't depend on the body-mind. So like in a dream, the awareness it creates another body-mind unit that we identify with, the dreamed version of oneself. And then it has all the adventures or whatever it has, the difficulties, the overcoming, the scary dreams or whatever. And so we know, I believe that the reason that we dream is to keep us alert to and aware that it's not that realities are based in consciousness, not in the body-mind. We experience a 3D reality here from the body-mind. So attachment to that is an error fundamentally, as we know ourselves as having this body-mind unit. And as awareness, this is what each of us has, that we operate through a 3D reality by way of, but it's not who I am. And so what was the other freedom we wanted was from what thoughts?
And someone said Connie said physical pain.
And physical pain, yeah. The whole thing about any kind of pain, physical is the one that gets our attention most readily because we are body identified. But the whole thing about any kind of pain, and I do not like to sound so cavalier about physical pain. I haven't known it in this body-mind for many years, but I do know a limited experience of eyesight. But the physical pain or any kind of pain, emotional pain, all of that is at the heart of the experience, neurologically or psychologically, is resistance. So it can be the high bar. I know, Connie, I know your experience and your awareness of what I'm saying. But it's like the allowing, it's like surrender and the allowing, because the tension that's created in the body or the mind, wherever the suffering is, of the resistance to it, is what holds our attention and what creates the difficulty. So it can be a really high bar with physical pain. God knows that's true. But that's so the first level of any kind of suffering has to do with giving up the resistance to it. And in that allowing to be able to see it in an expanded possibility. What do I mean by that? To be able to grok it, to have a sense of it, not so tightly held or personally experienced, but a bigger picture. Like, what was our other thing we were going to get? What they needed to be free from?
Robert wanted to be free of being triggered. I thought that
Yeah.
was a good catch-all.
That's right.
Free of my own grasping mind,
Yeah,
and then also free of the unknown, of the fear of the unknown, the fear of who or what I would be if I let go of that.
right.
The unknown, it's not so much of a fear as more of a curiosity of, well, yeah, if I let go of that, what would I be?
Right. Yeah,
If
so
that was even possible. I think I'm way far from it, but.
well, I think there are many moments when everybody in this room and on our Zoom call, I think there are many moments when we experience that, but we don't allow ourselves to acknowledge it. So that we have many moments when we're just in that open spaciousness and we're not caught by an identity. We're not being triggered. We're not being limited in any way. And these short moments are like previews of our true nature. Our true nature is already what is, but the mind comes in and what does it do? It confiscates our attention into what can look like and be experienced as problems, whether it's a physical problem, a mental problem, or an apparent external problem. The mind gets its prerogative from perceiving things as problems. It's on duty now. It's like, oh darn, what do I need to? I have to figure it out, right? And so the way of letting go of the mind is letting go of problems, and the way of letting go of problems is the ability to perceive what's happening without putting a label on it. And so that's a shift in identity, shifting out of the identity of someone who's limited or concerned or in pain, and coming back. It's like, again, backing up, like the point of view, backing up and seeing that this is just what's happening. It's maybe what's happening to the body. It may be what's happening in circumstances, but the perception, the point of view, the perception, the witness, the perceiver is the opening into our true nature. Witness is the aperture through which we are seeing things, and that's awareness that's looking. If we see it through a lens of a limitation or being triggered or whatever, then we've got an experience, right? But if we're just perceiving through the clear lens of awareness, then it's just what's happening. And it doesn't mean anything about me or you or the world. It's just what's happening. Now, the reason that's so powerful is because without the resistance to it, it will continue to unfold. When we believe that there's something wrong and we've got to fix it and we've got to deal with it, then we have literally what do I want to say? Confined it, we've literally installed it, that was the word, installed it as a problem, and now it can't continue to unfold or to change because we're mentally holding on to it and limiting it and then dealing with it as if it's a problem. So basically the freedom from our mind is the answer to all of the ones that we mentioned. The mind is the place where an identity that can be triggered is generated, right? It's through the lens of the early wounding that I see a world in which if something happens, will mean something about me. And I can recognize that it means something about me if I am triggered. Because a lot of, in the vernacular, a lot of shit happens and it doesn't bother me, right? Or you, right? But if it's about me, so it's that lens that creates the dynamic and where we get triggered or where we get held. It's that lens. And that's always mind created. And that and that experience of the reality as being fraught with difficulty is again from the quote from Anais Nin. We see the world through that lens of I'm not good enough, or I'm never right, or I did it wrong, or I'm ashamed. What kind of mother did you mention, Lily?
Remorseful.
A remorseful mother, right? And now we have a world that reflects that back to us. So it is this distortion field that in the model that I use, which is like a kindergarten model, but I think it's helpful. And that is that when we have installed a conclusion about ourselves, like I'm wrong, I'm bad, I'm flawed, I'm not good enough, whatever that is, when that's been installed, it creates an energetic distortion field through which we perceive the reality and we receive the feedback from it. And so we are now functioning at a level where there isn't any freedom, because we're going to be locked into trying to use whatever adaptive behaviors that we installed early on to deal with the belief that we had concluded about ourselves, like I'm not good enough or I don't matter. So it's an inside job, and that's the good news.
Yeah.
I'd like to let go of my self-limiting beliefs that after 15 years of not having a loving relationship, that I'm not capable of being in a successful one.
Yeah, so you have that belief, Les? Yeah. Can you see that belief?
I see it.
Yeah.
That's what I feel.
Right. Yeah, so you see, this is kind of a part of the kindergarten model, but anything that we can see, it's not us. This is the power of perception. If I can see this water bottle here, clearly I'm not the water bottle, but if I can see a label, if I can see a conclusion, then I have access to it. I don't have to believe it anymore. You know, it's convincing, and I may need to work on it because that's clearly a trigger for you, right? That belief, that conclusion. And so it's like to do the work to go back in and find where somewhere early on I concluded I can't have what I want, or whatever else in your experience fits with that belief that you have about relationship. Yeah, because built into your inquiry is it's already been so many years and for so long, and it's hopeless. Yeah. Yeah. So the opening into our true nature being consciousness or awake awareness, that the opening into that is the witness to it. If you can see it, you know, we can see these labels, we can see these conclusions, we can even see these outworkings, right? When we are when we have something occur to us like a limitation, and then the next day it proves that we were right. Yeah. They really don't like me, right? I really wasn't included. Yeah. So it's like this, the power of the way in which we create our own reality is really, really important. And the acknowledgement that the way that we do that is through frequency, and that frequency we can access by noticing, like that kind of belief, like you just shared with us, Les. So it's like, if you can see it, that's like a context that creates a milieu in which a reality arises, and it will always confirm the frequency of whatever you're believing. It doesn't have any other source, you know. Unlike what we may have been brought up to believe, that we could pray for God to make things different than we insisted on. We can start to allow that the real prayer is in what we're believing to be true about ourselves. That's a prayer that always gets answered, and it gets answered first energetically in the quantum field, and then with that collapsed wave function, it shows up as our reality. Did somebody cough or what?
Probably I don't know how to phrase this, so I'll just attempt. Besides diving and falling into the heart and trying to quiet one's mind through meditation, can you give us some practical tips how you dive into the quantum?
Yeah, the quietness is the biggest, the ocean of stillness that's available, that arises, but it will always involve quietening the mind. And the way to quieten the mind is perhaps to observe it, so that you're not resisting it, so that you're just seeing. It's like, well, one analogy that I use, it's like seeing the crawl on the bottom of the CNN screen. The thoughts are just going to be coming through, and you can watch them, but as you're watching them, you're not caught up, you're not believing them, and just more allowing. It's like through the breath, the more and more allowing, because what is operating, what's really true, is that field. That's, I am that, more than this. So it's like, I think of it like you mentioned, I always talk about it as falling, because it's like falling out of our mind and into what we call our heart, which I equate with the quantum field, with all that is, with the one I am. And so it's like this on the breath, you know, it's like allowing things to go, like whatever would be that would interfere with the peace, with the love, with the ease, the allowing, the opening, and whatever shows up, you know, it's like ask it to show you its credentials. If something shows up like fear, it's like, show me what you got. You know, it's like I used to use with dating services, like with guys that was in response, like, show me what you got. But it's so if something shows up that's keeping you from the experience of what's already true, then you take a look at it, you know, right? And if when you look at it, the possibility is that you will see it as an object, whether it's a thought or a fear or whatever. If you can see it, it is an object in this sense, that it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And so you have access to it. It's like in this field of the one I am, the quantum field, whatever shows up is not of, it's not awareness. It's an object. I don't know, does that help at all there?
Keep going. I'm loving this.
Yeah. So it's like it shows up and you're like being with it. It's like no resistance to it. What is showing up? It's like, say, an issue with finances, and you're looking at paying the taxes and balancing the income and outgo for the year. And it's like it's got this whole configuration, right? And what's been going on before right now, when you're opening into the field, is that you've had total resistance to it. You've been pissed about it. You haven't liked the new IRS hiring 87,000 more workers, right? That can actually now audit your return. But you've got a whole story there. Now you're not in resistance to it. You see it as having a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's a creation. And so seeing it without resistance to it, you can allow it to be what I call discreated. It's like, you know, it's like it's sitting there and it has these different aspects to it, but without resistance, because it's been resistance that's held it in shape. It's resistance that creates something being experienced as being against you, as limiting you, as something that shouldn't be the way that it is, which is the fundamental definition of something we resist. So in that spaciousness, it's like I experience it fully. It's got that fear about being audited. It's got that limitation about finances. It's all that. Right? Show me what you got. Right. And in that experience, it's like, it's just what it is. And so now the label is not that this is a difficulty or this is something that has me in contraction or resistance. It's just a creation. And in that way, we began to it simply doesn't have what it takes to persist. Everything comes to pass unless we attach to it or resist it. Those are the forms of attention that keep things stuck in our experience and in our mind. So it's like, again, allowing it to be whatever it is, seeing what still you're resisting, what aspect of it, work with that. Yeah. Within that creation, within that resistance, you might find a trigger that has to do with an early childhood wound. Everybody here, I don't know about everybody on the Zoom call, but all of us have worked with the 6 steps to freedom process. The way you will recognize something as an early childhood wound is whether or not you get triggered, like Robert was talking about. It's going to always take you there. And so if you see a part of this, in my example of what's in creation, in consciousness, you see a part of that brings up fear, like authority might, like IRS might bring up fear, like of that authority. And then you feel the trigger to that, you can do the work. What is that feeling? I'm feeling afraid. I'm feeling like they can do something to me without my permission. I'm feeling weak. I'm feeling whatever. And then go back to the earliest, this is the 6 steps, go back to the earliest experience of that same feeling. See what was happening and what you concluded about yourself. And to see that that was unavoidable for that little guy, that little girl, and that got installed, and that's been a part of the distortion deal. So I kind of hooked a few things together here, but clearing that opens the field. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So giving up resistance to it and allowing, because the field is, it's what is. We don't have to create awake awareness. We have to let go of all of our own mental limitations to it. It's already always what's true. And that's our nature. We're not having to create anything here. We're having to let go of everything that's not that's within our identity configuration, within our idea of ourself, a self-concept that was created very early.
So Abraham is always on about creating how you want it. And it's all about you're doing the creating. And I've always had trouble with saying, what are you wishing for? I'm thinking, well, what's happening is good enough. I don't want to mess it up by trying to wish it into a state.
Right. Yeah, so the question there is, I mean, I love the good enough deal, right? I mean, it's really common now. It's like, it's not great, but it's good enough.
Right.
It's not what I wanted, but it's good enough. Yeah. And so the opening into what you want to experience and letting go of the idea that it has to be a certain way for that to arise.
Yeah.
It's like the spaciousness, it's like this freedom. It's like, but as we move into that space with that, we don't have to make anything good enough or good or better or anything. It's the fullness of aliveness that's already what's true. It's our mind and these obfuscations of lenses and distortions of fear and self-concept that keep us from what's fully there, that's arising all the time as aliveness and peace and ease and everything that we can come up with that we think we would be happy with, right? A connection, that's all there, that's already what's true. Oneness is what's true, so I lost my train of thought. That train, like I lost the train.
Mhm.
Yeah, so allowing the mind to quieten and the heart to open up. One of the in one of the groups this past week, we talked about allowing true nature, the awake awareness, the one I am, to be primary, and this body-mind unit, this avatar, to be what it is. It's like it's the game piece for this virtual reality we're caught in, or that we're projecting. And so you start to experience more and more the fullness of awake awareness, which is who you are, and then that you have the specificity of your human design or your astrology, of your body-mind unit to function in. How are we doing?
About 10 more minutes.
10 more minutes. Who's up? Was that helpful in terms of getting into the
Well,
field?
I'm kind of wondering, like, when you see the resistance and you move through the resistance on a particular issue. So I acknowledge it, I let it go. And then it seems like there could be something, another layer of the onion after that.
Mhm.
So I'm just trying to find out through your system how you dive into the unknown, where there is no mental chatter, where there is no issues of resistance, where it just is what I call more peace at the quantum level.
It's more what?
Peace. PEACE.
Yeah.
Peace.
Why do you want to go farther than that?
That's fine with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that peacefulness that arises there is another aspect of true nature. Yeah. So if anything does come up, the approach is no resistance and the engagement with it at the level of inquiry, which is like, when was an earlier time when I felt that way? Because it's in the feeling state that we can evoke memories. Memories tend to be held in the body and the mind as feelings. So that same feeling of mommy not coming when I was hungry or whatever that was. And then later on, you'll have, because that occurs even pre-verbally, that will have the frequency that will have it occur later on, maybe when you do have language. And you feel like I don't matter, or whatever the conclusion is. And so it's always this opening and this allowing, and it's like probably the most powerful frequency that we can bring to anything is to not have resistance, is to have allowing, to letting things be whatever they are. Because what that is not just implies, but actually occurs, is that the mind is the source of resistance, right? And so when the allowing occurs, the mind is no longer in play. And that gives us the opening into the heart. But it is like an onion. There are layers after layers like that. But the one that can occur, at any point in this awakening cycle, in this awakening journey that we're on, every time you're not in resistance to whatever it is, then you are no longer suffering and things are shifting. There is the aliveness of the field. When you're no longer caught in resistance, you're not in fear, that frequency is not being emitted into the quantum field, and everything is showing up with greater ease and with greater freedom. Yeah, the roles like the mother thing, all of the roles that come with our collective conditioning can really be let go of pretty quickly most of the time, except when one or another of them is embroiled or knotted with a personal identity, which they often are, like the mother thing.
Right.
Yeah, it's not just collective conditioning, it's also our experience as we take on the cultural identity, or we rebel against it.
Pali, when we have this thought form that we allow to just be and grow and blossom, and we find this place possibly of we're going to want to word a trauma that happened at our earliest conscious memory. What's the best way of letting that go?
Yeah, that's the power of the 6 steps. That if you're triggered, so you're talking about a thought form, I'm assuming that it comes up when you're triggered, is that right? Or that's not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
But there's the notion that, okay, we've done this investigation and we finally found that moment in time when this occurrence happened, and so how is that healed? How is that?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The thing about the 6 steps, which puts it apart from every other protocol that I found, is that what its use is not a therapeutic approach, but a forgiveness approach. And the forgiveness goes like this: when you can see that what you had concluded was unavoidable for that little kid, but it was never true. Then it's like alchemy. It's like bringing mold into sunlight. Forgiveness is like, if the light comes on, it's like the sun arises and shines on this limitation, on this conclusion that's been literally running our lives, because that's what these things do. They get installed and they create the distortion field. Even if we can, and often, it's the reason that I loved when I found this process, before I found the 6 steps to freedom, which is a forgiveness process, and which I consider to be alchemical. I used Ho'oponopono because it is a forgiveness model. The therapeutic model validates the wound and by working on it, right? I mean, and then what you're caught with is you're caught in the polarity of having it or not having it. This conclusion, this belief. And so the whole thing is to see the seeing, the witness, to see that what happened, happened, and what you concluded was unavoidable, but it has no validity except in that occurrence. When everything came together like that, and it immediately got repressed because it's untenable to us. We're totally and accurately resistant to that kind of conclusion that we reach about ourselves, like I don't matter, or I'm not important, or I'm bad, or I'm wrong. When that gets repressed immediately, but then now it's giving off this frequency, right? So the reason that forgiveness is the way of it is that it's, again, alchemical, and it dissolves the conclusion. It's through the light of awareness, seeing the light shining on that unavoidable conclusion by that 4 or 5-year-old. Then it's simply dispelled. It's like the story, the Sufi story of the snake in the road. Once you see that it's a rope, you'll never see it as a snake again. And that's what can occur with us, with our early wounding conclusions.
Linda also has a question. This is the last one.
Mhm.
Yeah, go ahead, Linda.
And Polly, we can revisit this. Earlier, you were saying sometimes you do this practice where you have us be in awareness, witnessing in front of us, the body mind. And I've just been in this whole trip where I've been asking myself during our meeting tonight, like, well, where is awareness? Because I'm still caught in awareness is somehow a function of the brain.
Right, that's right.
So I'm not asking you to answer, but I'm just really wrestling with that. Like, can I allow and trust and be curious, like, really, what is awareness? What is the field? What is awake awareness?
Right. Yeah, well, that's why we as a body mind unit arise with all of creation in the field of the quantum field. It's like, did the dream analogy, was that helpful to you?
Well, no, because then my mind got into that and said, well, it's my mind that's having the dream. So that didn't work.
Well, it is your mind that's having it, but it's you're creating it out of the whole cloth, right? I mean,
Creating it out of,
well, you are establishing the players and the activity and all of that in the dream without a body mind. It seems like that it's coming from the mind. It's like the off-gassing of the mind, and to some
Right.
degree it is, but it's still as much real as this, right? I mean, when you fall down the steps, your dream body hits the floor, you have that experience. Yeah.
well, yes, and I'm just really sitting with this bigger question. And
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. So it is the top of the hour. If you'd like to make a donation to Polly, that would be wonderful. She offers this freely. Venmo, PayPal are over here on the table. We're going to go into 45 minutes of silent meditation with Polly. You're welcome to stay, leave, come as you like, but we'll be in silence.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Aloha, Polly.
Aloha, sweetheart.
Good night.
Good night, honey. Namaste.
Thank you, Molly.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All gone.
Blessings.
Oh, hi, Linda.
Hi, Deborah.
Can you see me?
I can see you. I had turned off my lights, so
Hi.
you can't see very well.
Wasn't that an amazing meditation?